How do I mark it? Okay, we got the page Kuf Tzadiches. So we're getting really, I feel like I'm getting an overview of what's going on, and I'm just trying to review in my head the situation in which, let's say, Zair Anpin, we find that in the world of Atzilus, that Zair Anpin has withdrawn into a certain in this what we call the embryonic stage. This is because of a stain or a cloud or something that it is libidinal, in other words, sexual. It's because of a mistake that was made at one time. Apparently, the Rav are deeply embedded in these ideas is the concept that they're in the energy of spilled seed. There is a tremendous amount of energy there, or let's say the energy of Kedusha. And it goes automatically, or it easily makes it attractive to the colleague to grab a hold of it because it's out and it's not connected. In other words, it has to be a connection, male female, and it doesn't happen. As a result of that, that energy is available to the other side, and the other side gets involved from there into different kinds of what we call perversions. And ultimately, it seems like he's saying up to this point that the main place that this settles, this which is hinted at or stated directly, I don't know which, by the rabbis, that there is a lot of zima in amongst the Egyptians. So therefore they had this ability. Now it seems like that where he wants to go with this, and let me see if I got in the right place. I'm in Perik base, okay, page Kof Tzadiches. Now he wants to talk about Zair Anpin, and that's what we're talking about now. Zair Anpin has folded himself up, Gimel go Gimel, and now though that's a desperate situation. And the other thing is that this cloud or this stain that came from, or this whatever it is that they came as a result of Adar Rishon, it seems to have fallen on the Jewish people. These are all difficult ideas. Is that why the Jewish people? But the Jewish people are taking them on themselves. I think that's what he's saying, to try to correct this stain. And so therefore, that's where we're at. Okay, so we're starting over here, and let me see. B'klal ha'ola b'derek tzara ve'ein anu ato bepratos be'er ha'madregos al derek seder mishnah zu. About klal ha'ola b'derek tzara. Let me just say this: what it was talking about. I forgot. We was talking about. We'll pick it up now. Kach shenolad Zair Anpin. After the birth of Zair Anpin, yesh lo Katnut rishon v'hu lekichasach halavushin v'chakelim bilvad. This is where you're talking about that Zair Anpin has only levush for the kelim themselves. Shehem kitzonis Yisrael savat tavuna. And we went through this a little bit yesterday. We're going to go into it now because he wants to talk about the Gadlust and Katnus, Rishon and Sheni. So he says, Em Kitzonim Yisrael Sabat Tavuna, which is dealing with the Kitzonius of the Ruva Na'asilo, Mochim, Penimium, and Mekipim. It makes these two different types of Mochim. Vedach Mochim, Ana Mechanim, Bezocha V'korim, Bezocha B'Shem, Netzach Hod Yisod Abba. Now we call these Mochim, that they're the Nai of Abba, Benetzach Hod Yisod, and Ima of those also. So we call them by that name. So he says, so let's see, V'achar kach, yesh lo Gadlust Rishon. So then after that, you come to Gadlust Rishon. What happened to Gadlust Rishon? That you're dealing first with the Mochin Chitzonium. Now you're dealing with the Mochin Penimium. This is a higher level, and that's a Chod Yisod, the Abba Ve'ima, Shem Penimius Yisrael Sabat Tavuna. That's really what you're able to deal with at that point. That's the height of Zair Anpin, or the amount of light that Zair Anpin can digest that goes inside of Zair Anpin. This is the Naran, or the Tzadi of Tzalim. That's a higher level. So it makes a second level of Katnus. Ana mechanim oso b'shem chesed gevura teferes to Abba Mima. Now it's interesting that he says that we call them by this name. Abba v'ima teferes the Abba, so which is the Chagat, the Abba v'ima. V'achkak lokeis Gadlut sheni. Then after that they take a second Gadlus. V'heim panemius amochin shebeso choch bebavida, which is the panemius. That's a higher level. So first you deal each level. You deal with the chitzonius and then the panemius. V'anem mechanim v'kol b'sora b'shem chesed gevura teferes the Abba v'ima b'bechin the panemius. So we call that this is the Chaga the panemius. V'achkach ola b'dikta the Erik Anpin. Now the only other place to go then from there, when you're speaking about the growth of mochin, is ultimately in Shabbos at Mincha time. It reaches the level of Erik Anpin, of the beard of Erik Anpin. Nizka the ale. Nizka the ale is a period. So he says, V'nira l'ni is daiti chayim, k'ara mochin penimium de Katnus rishon. So when we talk about the mochin penimius of the first level, kapiyim heim chitzoni yisur sasav v'tavuna. So we're talking about where the source of these mochin is. It is coming from the chitzonius of Yisrael Savat Tavuna, from the Chaz of Lamata, Hanikra Chanetzachod Yisod Tzadid Tzalim. So it's from the Chaz down below, and it's calling, he calls that this is the Tzadid Tzalim. So the Netzachod Yisod, it's also called the Nai, it's also called the Tzadid Tzalim. That's the part that goes into Zair Anpin. Of Hamakifim Shadachem the Katnus, the Kifim they come from this Katnus, Him Kitzonis Yisrael Sabat Tavuna, as we said, the Kitzonis. Min HaChaz Shadachem Alamala, from their Chaz going downwards, going upwards. Shnei Makifim, there are two Makifim. Shehem Bebechinis Chesed Gevura Teferes. One is the concept of a light that is coming to Zair Anpin from Ima, from her Chagat. And also there's a second level, which is the Chabad. V'heim Lamed, and respectively, what we just described, are the Lamed and the Mem Tzalim. Now these are levels of light that Zair Anpin is able to reach. So, okay, so he reaches them. It's a little bit vague in my mind. I don't have a clear picture of how it is. The Tzadid Tzalim, I don't have a problem with it, goes inside of Zair Anpin. But the Makifim, and we're saying that Zair Anpin actually grows up to a height where the Makifim, I guess, are shining definitely, because they're Makifim, they're shining down on Zair Anpin. Or Zair Anpin, they're equivalent to Zair Anpin. He has those lights now, but they're outside. V'achakach Gadlus Rishon, then after that you come to Gadlus Rishon. What is that? Hu Penimius HaMochin the Netzachod Yisod Yisrael Savat Tavuna, that's the Penimius of them. Min the Chaz Shadachem Lamata, for the Chaz going down. That means he means the lower half, which he calls the Nai. Shnecha Mekifim Shadachem Hu Penimius Yisrael Savat Tavuna, so that we're talking about Gadlus Rishon. He says that the Shadachem Hu Penimius Yisrael Savat Tavuna, Min the Chaz Shadachem Lamala, going upwards. Chesed, and they're also called Chagat, Chesed Gevura Teferes, V'chach B'bina Das. So those are all the levels going up like that. V'chein al derek zeh, hu pam shenis, it's the second time, Katnus v'Gadlus shnim, b'partzufi Chachma B'bina Eloin. So by reaching up into Chachma B'bina Eloin, then you're talking about, well, the two other aspects of Katnus and Gadlust, which is Gadlus Rishon and Sheni. V'zocher zeh heitis, so he says, gives us a blessing to remember how these things line up with the outsides, the insides, and the different levels between the Chagat, between the Nai, the Chagat, and it going all the way up to the Chabad. V'hinach avakatas arishon hatachton, shuhu menatzachod yisod de'ima, shuhu bebechinas tavuna k'nitzkar, which we're talking about is relating to Tavuna. V'chein hu nikra b'shem elokim. It's called by that name. We refer to that. Why? Because it talks about, this is really teaching us about the Bechinas Adin. So the Levush for the Netzachod of Elokim, B'Milui Yudin, is going to be with Milui Yudin. Kikav Yomim, so Yudim is going to be like that. Let me read this again. More is a Bechinas Adin. So I'm not sure that I really got the full meaning of that idea either. Okay, because there's some din involved with it, it's katnus. Zamora abachidas adin ha'umnam halavush the natzachod the elokim. So the lavush of those that hold those elokims, b'milui yudin was going to be in a milui yudin ki, that is the milui of yudin of of Eric Anpin, or of this elokim. That's what I want to say. As elokim is going to be of yudin, which is going to be gematria 300. Ki kain the yomim, so kav yomim, so yudim is going to be yudin. So we're going to say the first thing is going to be that. Ki hu kav chochma nikra yud, which is called by the name yud. Levush hahod. Now, when we talk about the levush for hod, which is the other side, hu elokim demilui hein. Ki kav small, hu kav bina hanikra hey, which is called by that name. Well, levush hayisod, hu elokim demilui alofim. So here we have the three different miluyim of it. Ki kavim soy, hu kav hadas hanikra aleph, which is called the aleph. So therefore, it's going to be in a milui of alofim. V'simane is like this: yud, k, and aleph. Yudin, heyin, and alofim is how we make the milui over there. V'chakatnus hasheni ha'elyon, so now the katnus sheni, which is going to be with the ava v'ima eloyin. Or let's see how that goes. Hasheni ha'elyon shehu min chesed gevur teferes, and it starts at chesed gevur teferes the ima and the ava shehu b'v'chinas bina. Mein hadinim mizgalim sham kamo b'tefuna, but they're not, the dinim are not going to be revealed over here like in tefuna. V'lechein ku nikra b'shem akadatam. So therefore, when you get to that level, the Elokim changes its name. He says Abgad, which is Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet in progression. You go like that. And the switch in Akadatam is just that it's the letters that came before, the simple letters of Elokim. V'amnam os Aleph, so the os Aleph has nothing to switch with. Ein os lefanecha v'lechein ein yichol v'hischala, so therefore you can't switch it. Os lam mischalav is os kaf shalafanecha v'os hey b'os dala shavanecha v'os yud b'os testa shavanecha v'os mem stuma will switch over and become a mem betucha shalafanecha ha'umlam lefi sha'ata hi b'sof teva, but now that it's at the end of the word, so you can't really switch it. After the SHAAR betucha, you can't leave it like that. For the chain nechtav is stuma. So there it's like that. Now I'm not sure what that was supposed to tell us about the nature of that letter. That it's really a mem stuma, a betucha, but they change it to the stuma. It changes as a result of its position at the end. Going on, he said, "V'hine shem hazeh ku yoser rachamim pnimim mishem Elokim. Ki harei hu b'bechidas ha'osis hakodmos the'osis Elokim." Because he said, "V'idach b'choyim ischalev ba'osis ha'mucharos." If it would have gone to the ones that after it, the shem Elokim, they should get this name, which we'll call it Bamoch. You would get this name, which is a name that you see. Now, that's interesting, but Vadai Shuhu Yoser Din, it's going to be more Din because it moved to the left instead of to the right. The Yoser Chitza V'Shem Elokim is more outside than the name Elokim. V'Shnei Temuros Elo Nizkar B'Sefer HaZoyer V'Pashas Pekudei, if you want to see that, and he gives a site reference. He said, Od Siba Shenis, Ki Kevin Sheshem Elokim Hudin, Im came to Marasa Yihya Rachamim B'Yoser B'Bena, so it would be a greater amount of Rachamim in it if you switch it. Masha Ein came B'Shem Havaya, so he said, but if you contrast to the name Havaya, Shu Rachamim, it starts out as Rachamim. Ki B'His Chalchum, when you switch it, Mora ala din, that's making it into more din. Shu Temuris Rachamim, which is the opposite of Rachamim. That's an interesting fact. He said they balance each other out in some ways. So let's go on a little bit more, and let me see something else. So he said, "Lebechin Shem b'zecha b'shalakadatam, nikras abina elokim chayim." So these two words go together. It's something could be. He has some arichos on this. It will be something maybe to investigate how you get from kadatam, but he means this is the living God. This is like this translation elokim chayim. So whenever you see that phrase, it's really talking to you about a sweetened din. Kihu Yosef Rachman v'Yosef Penimim v'Yosef Elyon b'Shem Elokim Stam. V'amnam levushim, that that's a chod yisod the Gadlust. Now the levushim here. Now we were talking about levushim of the before of the Chasadim and Gevuros, and we were saying that those are dams, and we got into the 10 dams, and that will start now. But here he's talking slightly different. He says amnam levushim, that that's a chod yisod the Gadlust. Gadlust Rishon, the levushim for them. You could also say that it's called Chesed Gevurah Tiferes. So Gadlust Rishon is also Chagat. So he said the Gadlust Sheni. Excuse me, I said it wrong. So he says, "I'm not levushim, and that's a chod yisod the Gadlust Rishon. The Chesed Gevurah Tiferes, the Gadlust Sheni." Okay, there we go. Hey, bebechin shemo shal ekya. The levushim are ekyas. Now we just went through ekyas. We went to the revu of ekyas. Here's the levush is ekya coming from ima. Keniska the eil betachidus adrush. Vehem ekya the yudah benetzach. So now you have 3 different lines. You have the ekya of yudah. Yudah goes with the right line. The lafim, which is the middle line. The lafim behod. I got that wrong. The lafim behod v'dehayim b'yisod, and the hays are nisod. Now that could be looked at to me because I'm not sure that I would have said that. So, but I did. I'm not the Rab. So therefore, it's my misunderstanding. Okay, I was fine there. So I would have said that the next one would be kana, because I thought that was how it would go, and the comic would be in the middle. But he says this like this: V'hem ekya the yudim benetzach u'dolafim behod v'dehayim b'yisod. And he says it has a siman. The siman like this: Yud Aleph K, Kambavura B'drash Ad Slolim, Belel Chashana Rava. So the different shadows that you have over there is a big mystery. So I didn't really get all their differences. Masha Ein Kain, but which is not Masha Ein Bein Netzachod Yisod the Gadlust Risha, which is not the case by that. The Lechesa, the Gevurah Tiferes, the Gadlust Sheni, or the Chesa Gevurah Tiferes, the Gadlust Sheni. Ki Gevarn is Boyer, so it was already explained like this. Ki Bekatnus Rishon, when we're talking about Katnus Rishon, and that's a Chod Yisod Hem Elokim, they're all Elokims. The Bekatnus Sheni, the Chesed Gevurah Tiferes, Hem Akadatams. So he reviewed that, that's very nice. And so he says, so that's when you get to Katnus Sheni. It's still an Elokim, but it's switched, so it's not. So he said, "Amnam zecha levusha gadlus." So he said, now we're talking about here the levushim of the gadlus. Aval bebechinas hamochin the penimium atzman. When we're talking about the mochin, the penimius of themselves are mislavshim besochel kulum heim bebechinas havayos ve'ein bechem shinui. They're all havayos. So let me read this phrase again. Amnam zehu, what we talked about, bebechinas levusha gadlus. We're talking about the levushim for gadlus. Aval bebechinas hamochin the penimium atzman. When we're talking about the mochin that are inside of themselves, there we'll be talking about the levush. But now, what's about the inside, the actual moach? If you look at them, you would see that they were avayos. They didn't go through any changes. They don't like it in Kadatam. Commotion is boil elders, like we explained up above. Keep his man hakatnas, and when we're talking about the time of katnas, ben katnas rishon, ben katnas sheni. Ein lo the Zair Anpin mochin necherim. He doesn't have any other mochin. Zulus eloch levushim. All he has are these levushim bilvad. The chitzonius, the netzachod yisod, the ima. That's all he has. Oh, the chesed are if he rises up to the level of katnas sheni. Oh, the chesed gevurah tiferes the ima. Ve'edach levushim atzman, but the levushim themselves, the vadim, heim mochin the Zair Anpin. Now, how does this go? They become the mochin the Zair Anpin bekatnusa when he's a cotton, because there's the mochin themselves, a rishon or a sheni. That's the level there. V'lechein yesh chiluk b'shemus levushim the netzachod yisod. So therefore, there are names for them. V'lechein yesh chiluk b'shemus. Excuse me, it didn't say that. He said v'lechein yesh chiluk. There's a difference. B'shemus levushim the netzachod yisod, of the names of the levushim of these three. Al shemesh levushim the chesed gevurah teferes. They're going to have different names. I'm not sure what this means. Ki elu be'elu elokim. Because one, when we're talking about one, we're talking about Katnut here, I guess. We're called because Elu Elokim, that is the Elokim, are with the Nai, what we call the Nai, and the Kadatam is going to be the Moach that's going to be in the Chagat. Of the Gadlust is the Zair Anpin, but that's in Katnut. In the Gadlust, the Zair Anpin, Be Begadlus Rishon, Be Begadlus Sheni. We're not talking about it's the bechina penimius themselves of the nai. Oh, the chesed gevurah teferes the ima. Amnam em tipus mochim mamish, because what they are is that, I'll read it again. They're actually the mochin themselves. Anim shachim that are streamed down the mochin the abba v'im b'mamish be'ez zivav that takes place at that time. Ve'im b'nechem shinui bein God or Gadlus rishon l'sheni. There's no difference between these two. It's a little bit idea, because at the time of the yichud, Abba v'ima and Yisrael Saba Tavuna, I think, come together. Ve'im b'nechem shinui bein Gadlus rishon l'sheni. There's no difference. V'kulam ein b'bechinas havayos, and they're all havayos. It all comes together at that. Because they're inside of the netzachod yisod. Oh, the chesed gevurah teferes the ima. Because it's talking about the penimius. We're talking about Gadlust. Because there's mochin inside of themselves. So they're only called by the name of the mochin. Shehem havayos, which are always havayos, v'lo al shem halavushim, ad kan lashon hakadama, sheyadan l'chol ba'ara. So that I've laid this out for you. You could take a look at it. What he's talking about, this is a hakdama. So we're talking here about how we got into this. That was the second drush. So there's a lot in the second drush that could be really, it's kind of like an intricate, different part, just explaining where it is, how the different influences of the growth of Zair Anpin, and this is what we're talking about. Okay, so this is drush, PESACH drush Gimel. Now we're going to drush Gimel now. So Yevoyer Inyan Yitzias B'Srayim Ve'inyan PESACH. So we'll talk about that. So he says, "V'hine b'hiyosha asher begalus b'tzrayim koyach yitzonin ne'achazim b'tachlis b'kedusha." So they really had a direction that they were really beamed in on feeding off of that kedusha. Ad shechazer Zair Anpin the bedregach hayoseg garu, until Zair Anpin fell into that situation, which is the lowest possible. V'hu sheyoseg b'bechinas las glil b'klas. And that is him in a situation where he is folded up through the nai on top of the chagat. So now here comes the ma'atzah la'elyo. The hotzia as Zair Anpin besod leida b'mei ima, to bring him out and bring him birth, and to, what's the right word, bear him out or bore him out, to make him be born, b'mei ima. And ultimately bring him to Gadlust, she'efshar the kiyoslo, that is the highest level of Gadlust that he can reach. So here we see that this will have the effect of nullifying the chitzoni, will make him strong and powerful, and his mochin will be such that he can repel the other side. So he says, Mifnei rov ha'rosov shel ato, because he has so much light now. So he speak b'ma sheyizgad Gadlus Rishon. So it's not enough that he just goes to the level of Gadlus Rishon. Bilvad SHAAR Yomim Tovim, which is in the same aspect as all the rest of the Yomim Tovim. So what is he saying? He says the Yomim Tovim reach the level of Gadlus Rishon. That we explained this once before in the Drush Inyan Hashinuyim Shebein Yom Tov the Shabbos. Okay, we hear that somewhere else. B'inyan the Yomim Tovim she'ein aliyah Zair Anpin nukva v'oz rak b'netzach hod yisod the devuna devad. So they only make it up to that level, to the 9. Kanoda says as is known. He says ki shem akia b'milu yudin. If you take it b'milu yudin b'bina v'chavai the sag hi b'devuna. Yom Tov hu b'gematria og. Now, how does that work out? Let's read it again. He says, Ki shem akia b'milu yudin. If we take akia milu yudin, it's 161. It goes along with bina. Havavaya the sag is in tevuna. So he says, so therefore, those two levels, v'lechem Yom Tov hu b'gematria og. So how does that get, which is 73? So how did we get that? The Yom Tov is on a certain level, and he says, and this is a form that the Rav uses, which I still need an explanation for. He says, divide the sag. You take the divide the sag, and you add on to it the letters themselves. It gets to the gematria ag, 73, which is the same minyan as the word Yom Tov. So he says that it's from sag, so the level of sag. But he says no like this. This is only talking about what takes place by itself at the Yom Tov. But then after that, now we pray. We pray, it's for sure there, that they go up to the level of Chachma B'Bina Eloim, that they do raise themselves up to that level. B'Pasuk we have this Pasuk Elim Order Hashem Mikra Kodesh, etc., etc. So it reaches to that high level. I guess that's Pasuk is supposed to tell us that. But this is different. On the night of Pesach, Gadlut of Zair Anpin Afilu Gadlus Hasheni of Zair Anpin grows even right away into the level of Gadlust, which is, he's saying, that's the level of the Chagat. Shahu, let's say, which is the same level as Chachma B'Bina Eloim. So I got myself a little mixed up because it said it was the Chagat. I thought the Chagat was supposed to be Gadlust, but let's go anyway. But this is the level, he says, of Chachma B'Bina Eloim. In other words, okay, so let's just leave it at that. Okay, we have a long arichus over there in the explanation of that, of how it is to be the level of Abba V'Ima Eloim. Lod Oda Ela Shalel Pesach Gedola B'Leil Shabbat, but not only that, but Pesach is greater than Shabbos. Ki B'Leil Shabbos Ein El Zair Anpin Zulase Gadlus Rishon Levad, because in the night of Shabbos, Zair Anpin gets only one level of Gadlus, and that's the level of Gadlus Rishon. V'halamed shall be b'chidin b'kifin b'tzelem, and it gets also that level, the lamed of the b'kifin by the tzelem. So he says, v'chafilu chamakiv the oz mem, even the makiv of those men, the tzelem, ein lo b'leil Shabbos, you don't get that at the night of Shabbos. Kandiska b'bekomo, that's talked about in its place over there in the Kavanos of Shabbos. Avach b'leil Pesach yesh lo av gadlus sheni the chochma, but on Shabbos you get a second level. This is the level that refers to chochma ubina eloim kandiska, to get light from that level right away. Od yesh b'chinas ma'ilo chayre b'leil Pesach yosem mishar yomim tovim b'shabbosos. There's something else which is also greater. B'yom tov v'Shabbos, because on Yom Tov and on Shabbos, ein Zair Anpin ola madregasa b'pam achas v'ol ola madrega acha madrega. So now he says that it goes up one level after another. In other words, it goes in levels. So you have to move from Olam Asiya into Olam Abriya, and then through Yetzirah, and then through all the different levels of Olam Yetzirah, etc., going upwards. So every time, every different section of the tefillah, we go higher. Kaniska means every tefillah versus nighttime, morning, and afternoon. So he says, Kaniska, it's landed bit tefillah shakris, Mosef, Mincha, the Shabbos, so those are all different times. So he says that you have movement upwards towards the source of all light. Pesach, Bapam Echad, Odacha B'kol Madregas, and one time it goes to all the different Madregas. Shalo Al Yadecha Tefilus Rabos Zu Achazu. So you don't have to go the levels like on Shabbos. There's levels. So this happens all at once. Al Bapam Achaz Ola Al Gadlust Sheni, but just bang, it goes up to Al Gadlust Sheni just like that. The motion Ivar B'Essence Hashem, and we're going to get into that timing that he's talking about. So moving right along. Let me get a drink here. So he says, Omnam yesh yisron the Shabbos melel Pesach. There's a difference on Shabbos between Shabbos and the night of Pesach. Yivalel Pesach ola ad chochmah bebina loin levad. On the night of Pesach, that is the highest level that they could reach. Ava b'yom Shabbos b'mincha, on Shabbos though, reach a higher level. Al dikna derech Anpin, it actually reaches in a tremendously pedimistic place, as explained over there in its place. Aval b'Pesach, but in Pesach, ena oida b'dikna derech Anpin ad Chag HaShavuos. Over there, the actual level to reach the level of the zakan of Erech Anpin, that takes place in Shavuos. Kamoshi is bar lochalon. We'll get to that. But as it's Hashem is bar v'kol chasiva. So the whole reason he kadeshi is batoch chisonim with his aches bo. The whole idea of not going all the way up to the top or fighting it, I guess, is thinking about that all along the way through the spheros. B'hiyosa gola b'pam achas, and the fact that he grew all at one time. Tachlis called madregas, and ultimately he made all the madregas v'chaliyah kanizkri. He did all this at one time. V'inyan zeh nirmaz b'pasuk echad. So there's a reference to this in this pasuk. Sidura b'malach haggadah, that was originally placed in order by the Bali Haggadah, the Leil Pesach, the La'amro. So when it says like this, Besoch Seder Haggadah, within from the order of the Sakada, whose pasuk this part v'tirbi, v'tigdigli. So these are Lashon growing me, v'tavoi, and come to me ka'ade adayim. So it's with a lot of charm, and it goes on that pasuk over there in Yecheskel. So if it's like what we've explained, let me make this pasuk work. It's in the middle of the Haggadah over here. Now when we came out of Mitzrayim, Rabba v'Gadach of Zair Anpin betachlis madregas gedolos b'pam achas. Zair Anpin grew bang up to tremendously high levels of consciousness at that time. Ad shegadach b'chadchesed gevur teferes the Abba v'Ima, until reaching the level of Abba v'Ima Eloyin, the level of the, I think he means Eloyin. At any rate, the Gevurah Teferes the Abba v'Ima till he reaches the Chagad of Abba v'Ima she'ein b'bechinas ha'chochma b'bina Eloyin. Okay, he says it. He says because they're the aspect when we talk about reaching to Abba v'Ima Eloyin, we're talking about that level. That's the level up to the Chagad. But the head is still not reached. Kenizkar v'sham b'chesed Gevurah Teferes hu makom hadadim v'shadayim. So, but this is also the place of the breast, and this goes along with part of that, the end of that part of that pasuk. So grow breasts, and they'll come to fruition, become to fullness or adulthood or higher level. Tirbi, that word tirbi is lashon rav, make more. Keneged Gadlust Rishon, that refers to Gadlust Rishon. The Rishon, the Netzachod Yisod, which is the level of Netzachod Yisod of Abba v'Ima. So we said the next word, though, he says, Keneged Gadlut Sheni Techesa Gevura Teferis. So give me some of those ideas. So when we're talking about this second level of Gadlus, he says, where do we see this? So I translated this, so he translated like, this with Art Scroll gave me the idea that it's Lashon charm, charming, but Adayim. But the Drush is not going that way. What is the Adi Adayim? Well, he says, well, these are the names Akadatim, which are nice. They're nice denim. Shebechesed Gevura Teferes Niskara, that's the name that you find at this higher level. Now, I haven't put this together in my mind. I have to understand the levels. But you're talking about Zair Anpin, who is on the outside. Or where is Zair Anpin? It has to be on the outside of Ava Be'ima. And somehow he's moving up to the level of that light level. So I'm just trying to fit in my head. Moves up to that level of the Chagat, and in the Chagat are 3 Akadatam. Shekol Echad Behem Hu Begematria Ad, and each one of them, he says, is actually the Gematria of 74. V'zehu Ba'adei Adayim. So this is what it means Ba'adei Adayim. It goes to the place, he says, of these 74s, which are Akadatams. Adi is Echad, Adayim is Shnayim. So that's Hare Shlosha Pamim Ad. So he says that this makes 3 times 74. So he explains, he says, where do we see that this is the place that you had, that's what you find over there, these 3 Akadatems, which are 74s. They're in the Chagat. Asher Sham Makom Badadev Ashadayim, so that's the place where the breasts are located. So he says, Shadayim Nechono, so they really grew breasts. Or possibly, Efsha the Farish Tirbi, a Keneged Katnus Rishon, that the word Tirbi talks about the first level of Katnus. So the Iver, because now it's talking about really what's the right word? The development of Zair Anpin. So when it says the Kirba, so we go back, the Tirbi Keneged Katnus Rishon. So getting to a stage where you're at Katnus Rishon is a development. Which is also the time of nursing, as Zair Anpin is born out. Kol Hashishikitzvos are revealed in him that he actually has 6 different points. V'tigdali connected Gadlus Rishon, so this which could make me big converts to Gadlus Rishon. V'tovoi ba'adi adayim, and that phrase tovoi adayim b'dachah v'katnus sheni is the second level of katnus. Shehem shem akadatam, which we said before, is this sweeter level, which is using the name Akadatam instead of the name Elokim. Shadayim nechona keneged chesed gevura teferes, because that's the place where the Shadayim are located, and it grows breasts, so to speak. It develops, this develops into a more mature being at the level of the breast. That's Gadlut Sheni. Now you know you'll know the reason why we have to say the Haggadah on Pesach night. Gam Tavin Havanas Milas Pesach Ma Inyana, also understand this. V'ha'inyan hu yuvan im hanizkar, so the whole Inyan could be understood in what we said, what was mentioned. So let's understand that Tavuna is manifest. That's when we use that phrase. It's going into Netzachod Yisod of Ima. That is what it refers to. V'chavabino hu chesed gevura teferes. Bina is going to be that level, the level of Chagat. V'nimsa ki rosh hatavuna. If you looked at the top of the Tavuna, hu b'siyum Netzachod Yisod, the Bina is at the end of the Nai of Bina. Im choiv im choiv shebechiyosah the chlalim yachad. If it's not a case where you have the two of them are joined together, the parts of echad and one parts of hanikra be'imach hanikra zabidach bechesed. So let me read this again. He says v'nimsa ki rosh hatavuna, the top of tavuna. The top of the tavuna is going to be right next to the bottom of bina. Hu b'siyam netzachod yisod the bina. This is the end of the nai. So it's at the bottom. Let's see what he says. Im hiyosha b'hiyosa nechlalam yachad. If so, he said that you have to understand this also. I think, to the extent that they get joined together. Yachad, the parts of echad, hanikra be'ima, nikra is now bina, which is composed of chesed, gevura, tiferes, the ima kenizker, which is now that second level of ima, which is Gadlust sheni. The nimzaki chas cholas makom bagadlus sheni, the Zair Anpin, so it's looking like this. The beginning of the Gadlust sheni of Zair Anpin, and the Tosef Adar below Pesach, which is added on to Zair Anpin at the night of Pesach. This is all going on at the night of Pesach. Masha Ein came Bishar Leile Yomim Tovim, which is different from any other Muadim, of Shabbos Kenisker or Shabbos. Hine Sham Hu B'Makom HaPeh Shal HaTavuna. So let's go back now. Where is the pad of Tavuna? It's in the Rosh. Shehu b'shlosh rishona sheba. So it's in her head. So the head, he wants to say that the head of Tavuna corresponds to what? So he says, so let's say the head of Tavuna corresponds to the nai of Bina. It's the same level. So therefore, what we're talking about here is coming out of that mouth, which is in the head, which is at the bottom of Bina, or below Bina, and maybe they're going to combine. So he sheshechu b'shlosh rishona sheba v'zech v'loshon pesach, pesach. What does that mean? Mouth that speaks. We hear the Breslov word on that. Because he says the concept of the speaking, Pesach, is talking about this is coming out of the mouth of Tavuna, that's Oradin Shal Tavuna. So talking about the reasons for saying the Haggadah and all the conversation we're going through. Let me just read this once back again. Let me see. Where would it be? Let's go back to the previous page on the word hine. He said hine sham hu b'makom apeh. So what is coming out? I want to try to figure out what do we need? The mouth needs to speak, he wants to say. The mouth needs to speak. This is the mouth of Tavuna, which corresponds to the nai of Bina. So he said, "B'makom apeh shel Tavuna, shehu b'shlosh rishona sheba, b'zecha v'lashon Pesach, he sham in that place, hu hapeh shel Tavuna. That's where the peh of Tavuna is located. V'lechem sarach laharbos b'sipur shvach Yitzias Mitzrayim." So we're going to have to make a tremendous amount of this praising of Yitzias Mitzrayim coming out of that place, which is this mouth. Said Od Yesh Be'inyan Zech Pirushim Mecherim. So now we're coming to other different explanations. Be'inyan Pesach. Well, you could use that word. The Be'inyan Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim. V'lekamon, and later on we're going to get to this, and we're going to use Boyer Be'ezes Hashem. So we have another 2 minutes. I'm going to keep going. B'da ki edo hamochem in iskarim la'el. So these mochem that we've mentioned up above, shehem ad tachlis gadlus sheni, until it must ultimately, or it is ultimately aimed at and builds itself to Gadlust sheni, the Zair Anpin. He says, aniknasa b'socha b'lecha b'pesach, that enter into him at the time of Pesach, he gets Gadlust sheni. So that's why on Pesach night we say the complete Hallel. Masha Ein came Bishar Leila Yom Tovim, which is not the case of all the rest of the Yom Tov nights. Miskaimim Bo Kol Halayla, because they stay within the whole night. Lam V'Kol Yom Rishon Shal Pesach. V'Lechein Omrim Halal Gomer B'Yom Rishon Shal Pesach, and that's the reason why you do that. Because the Mochim are there and we're living it. V'Achakach Mistalking the Gamrech Gamitachila. So then they leave completely. That's after the first day. But now you have to count the Shavuos. Madrega Acher Madrega, one level after another. Mina Yom Hasheni Shal Pesach Al Tishlum Chamishim Yom, until you actually go through 50 days. There's 50 levels. Shas Shviras HaOmer V'Shuchu Chag HaShavuos. Promotion is Bar Be'ezes Hashem Be'inyan Shviras HaOmer. That we know that we're going to get to that when we get to Shviras HaOmer. So he says, V'lechein, Ein Omrim B'shar Yemei HaPesach Halo, so the rest of the time we don't say a Halo Gamor, Ala B'dilug, but we skip some of it. V'tam Adavar Hu, so the reason for this is as follows, and we'll finish with this. Ki l'sivus ha'chizis ha'chitzani b'zecher b'an v'tachlis ha'tokev ha'chizazim, because they so powerfully hold them. V'lechein chutzok l'higodu b'pam achas kol ha'bedregos, so therefore we had to grow him, that is the matzel, had to grow him. All the madregos, shalom madregos, kadesh, he is bound to all achitzonim, knock out the chitzonim. So suddenly there's a tremendous light of the consciousness there that knocks them out. V'achshid is battle, hukzar hadavar of the tivo goes back to the way it was normal. The gadach of b'ksei chakdalas madregos acher madrega. That's going to be sphera, and we'll stop right here.